Namaste and welcome to another episode of the CattleUSA Daily Podcast. Today, I want to take a minute to talk about something that is not always super easy to bring up within our industry, and that is mental health. So many of you listening to this are probably known for your strength, your resilience, and just your overall grit. But behind that tough exterior, so many of us are dealing with hidden battles of stress, anxiety, burnout, and even depression. And I'll be the first to say, I've been there. There were days when the pressure of everything from finances to long hours to isolation felt like it was just going to be way too much for me to handle. And those aren't just stats or numbers that you are reading in a report. These are real struggles that affect our families, our communities, and our ability to keep on doing what we love. You've probably heard this before, but I'm going to say it again. Male farmers, ranchers, and ag workers have a suicide rate 1.5 times higher than the general population. That is not just a stat. It is someone's friend, neighbor, or family member. And while these mental health struggles aren't caused by just one thing, they come from a plethora of different pressures within our lifestyle and agriculture. Trust me, I know that weight well, and I'm sure that you do too. So let's talk about a few of these stressors that some of you are probably dealing with. The first being probably the most obvious and one that hits home for probably the majority of the people listening to this, and that is financial pressure and market volatility. The cattle market is just simply all over the place. Prices fluctuate, droughts hit, trade policies change, and before you know it, our livelihoods can kind of feel like they're just hanging on by a thread. On top of that, we have to deal with managing debt and rising costs and trying to make sure every single dollar counts. That level of pressure can really start to wear you down. There's also just the reality of living in rural areas that comes with the social isolation and just disconnection. It can be really hard to live in a rural area where access to mental health services is tough to come by. And on top of that, there is that lovely old school stigma about asking for help, the one where we don't ask for help. I've been there, and I feeling like you have to tough it out on your own is really, really hard sometimes. There's also just the unfortunate aspect of uncontrollable events. And this is coming from a person that loves to have control. So uncontrollable events are just really not it for me. Things happen that are out of our hands, frankly. From droughts to floods to wildfires to brutal winters to just everything else in between. And these don't just affect our bottom line, they simply punch us right in the gut. And it is hard not to feel like you are fighting a losing battle when nature or just the world turns against you. It's also just the reality of ranching and working long hours and all of the physical demands of working 24/7. The physical demands and long grueling hours, they can leave you drained. And after a while, fatigue can start to creep in and make everything feel 10 times harder. There's also generational pressure and succession challenges that a lot of us are dealing with nowadays. There's the pressure of carrying on that family legacy and the fear of losing the ranch or just not meeting expectations set by those that came before us. It is a lot to carry, and it is heavy. Each and every one of these things pile up, and before you know it, it can start to affect more than just your work. They bleed into your personal lives and relationships. So here are some of the ways that stress can start to show up. You might see decreased productivity or impaired decision-making. When you're stressed out, it's just really, really hard to think straight. Even simple decisions become a struggle, and that can affect everything from your business to your relationships to even just your general overall health. You're also probably going to see some strained relationships. And this one hits home for me. When you're holding everything inside, it can start to take a toll on your relationships. It is easy for stress to spill over into the home and create tension with your family and just business partners. There's also an increased risk of substance abuse. In some cases, people might turn to alcohol or other substances to try and numb the pain. It is not a healthy coping mechanism, but I get why people go down that road. It's a temporary escape from the pressure. There's also tragic losses. And I don't even have to say it, but the suicide rate in our industry is heartbreaking. Every loss like that isn't just a personal tragedy, it is a loss for a whole community. Now, I'm not going to sit here and just dwell on all of the tough stuff. I want to talk about how we can start addressing this. Mental health is something that for so long has been pushed aside and swept under the rug in our industry, but it is time for a change, and it starts with us by being open, talking about it, and supporting one another. So, here are some actionable steps that have helped me and have helped some others. The first thing, and probably the hardest, is to acknowledge it and talk about it. The first thing I want to say with this is that struggling with mental health is not a weakness. It is part of being human. Opening up to a trusted friend or family member was one of the hardest, but also one of the most healing things I ever did. We have got to create a culture where talking about mental health is seen as strength, not weakness. Now, this one's going to sound a little woo-woo, but you have to prioritize rest and self-care. I know. When you are working on a ranch, it feels like there is always something to do. But taking a break is essential. You have got to get good sleep, eat right, and take times for moments of quiet with just yourself. Stepping away for even a little while can recharge your spirit and just bring all of the things back in a clearer mindset when you do come back. Now, I'm not saying you have to go on a vacation to the Bahamas once a month to recharge your spirit. Although I would really love to be in the Bahamas right now. It's freezing cold in Kansas today, let me tell you. It's going to look different for everyone, prioritizing rest and self-care. But you have got to figure out what works best for you and start small and just start doing it. The next thing is you need to also build and lean on your support network. So this looks like staying connected to your neighbors, maybe your local ag groups, church communities, or just like other industry associations. And if it gets to a point where you can't handle it anymore, please reach out to a professional. I know it's not always easy to find help in these rural areas, but there are telehealth options right now that are really making waves and making it way easier to get that support that we all need. Like really, really easy. Like you can go online and just like go to a website and like find someone that's going to sit down and talk to you today. Another thing that just for business owners in general, not even just ranchers, that is really hard to do is looking at our time management and seeing where we can delegate tasks. You do not have to do it all. And this is coming from someone who would really like to be able to do it all if I could. If you're feeling overwhelmed, please delegate these tasks where you can. And also learn to say no where you need to. You have got to start protecting your well-being. It has got to start coming first. Now, something that every single one of us listening to this can do. I don't care if you are currently dealing with mental health issues, never have, know someone that has, wherever you are on that, we all need to be advocating for rural mental health resources. We need to support local and state initiatives that bring out mental health professionals to rural areas. We've got to keep pushing for better resources, like workshops or counseling for families of farmers and ranchers. And when you can, please share your story. It is amazing how just one person opening up about their struggles can do the same for some others. We are the backbone of agriculture. We're tough, we're resilient, but even the strongest of us need help sometimes. I am speaking to you today not just as a fellow rancher, but as someone who has been through it. And let me tell you, taking care of our mental health isn't a luxury, it is a necessity. Taking care of yourself means you'll be better able to take care of not only your land and your animals, but also your family who desperately needs you. Let's do better for ourselves and for the next generation of ranchers who are coming up behind us. If you are struggling right now, please, please, please know that you are not alone. Reach out. Let's support one another and create a community where mental health is just as important as the health of our cattle. The ag community is strong. We are resilient, but it is okay to ask for help. Thank you guys so much for listening to another episode of the CattleUSA Daily Podcast. If you are one of those people listening to this that wants to look at getting some help or just look at resources, I'm going to have some really awesome links linked down in the show notes. So please head down there, go check out those resources, and let's get better at talking about mental health within the agricultural industry. Have a great rest of your day, guys, and we'll see you tomorrow.